In this episode of Detroit Performs, a woodturner, a leaf painter, and painting to save the planet. It's all ahead on this edition of Detroit Performs.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, the A. Paul and Carol C. Schaap Foundation, the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs, the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Detroit Performs. I am your host, DJ Oliver, and I am leading us into the 9th season of Detroit Performs, where we will highlight brilliant talent that our area offers. Now I'm coming to you from the Janice Charach Gallery, located in the Jewish Community Center, where the exhibition Beyond Constraint is taking place. Now I'll be showing you around the exhibition throughout the show. But first, let's get to tonight's artist, who turns what's falling from trees into beautiful masterpieces. First up, Steve Kolpacke, who is a woodturner who only recently realized how skilled he is in the craft. Check him out.
It matches nature and life, that things aren't perfect, that there's always something different there. And it's just the little hidden surprises I think you find on the inside. I like the outdoors. Working with trees, with wood, is just pleasureful. 8 or 9 years ago I started it. Pretty much all was self-taught. I have always wanted to make stuff. So I started building furniture probably about 25 years ago. And occasionally I had a need to turn something. So I've got a machine lathe in the garage that I've used to make stuff. And then once I started using that for furniture pieces and other functional things, it started turning into art. To me, it gives a second life to the tree. It served its primary function, and then it could be either used for construction, for furniture, for fire, but to me, turning it into an object of art is special. The process is almost all manual, so there's a motor driving the object, but everything is by hand. You move the tool bit by hand, you do all the sanding by hand, and you do the finishing by hand. A lot of people are amazed at the object you're starting with. I start with something that looks like it should be thrown into a fire pit or in a dump, and start taking away from it. The tool that I use is a lathe. So a lathe is a machine that you attach an object to, you spin it around. So you get a general circular form to it, but as you start cutting away at the piece, you start to see more of what's inside. Today you're going to see various stages. You'll see it all the way from the raw material to getting chunks of wood into a shape that you can actually start to cut them. We'll see some rough turning of the outside to get it to its rough shape. We'll see some finish cutting on that. With every piece, it gets attached more than once. So you'll attach it one direction, you have to turn around to finish the other side. So we'll see an example of finishing the other side. We'll see an example of some hollowing out. And throughout this, we'll see various parts in different stages. It won't be the same part, because it can take up to weeks to create a part. Or if you're starting with wet wood, it takes months because you need to dry it out in between some of those. I look at a piece of wood and I have an idea of what I want to do. And 9 times out of 10, it comes out completely different. As you start to cut away, you start to see, and instead of you telling the wood what you want it to do, the wood more tells you the shape that it wants to be. I see what a lot of people look at that are defects or voids, and to me it brings out the character of it. So you start to see the grain inside, you start to see different objects in there. You'll find out that a branch came out of one side, so there's additional feature that you start to see. But you can see this one's got a lot of character. There's the pith here, which is the center of the tree. That's got a hole going all the way through it. We'll try to keep that as much as we can. And then there's this other one here that appears that maybe there was a branch in here, and we're also trying to keep that. It's addictive. There's a rhythm of actually doing the cutting, and I can find that I can stand at the lathe for sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day doing it. And it's exciting because as you keep cutting away at it, you see something new, so it's kind of an adventure. A vast majority of it is art. So I do vases, I do vessels. So a vessel is something that has a very small opening at the top of it. It's hollowed out on the inside. And of course, a favorite is Christmas ornaments. And I do functional stuff. On the functional side, salad bowls and rolling pins, stuff like that. I would say 95% of what I use is not only local, but probably within about 50 miles. I work with just about anything I get my hands on. I've used walnut, oak, box elder, and ash. So ash with the ash borer, again, there's a lot of wood available there. In a short period of time, probably very little will be available because there's no more ash trees. But each species has different texture, different ability to cut. So some are very easy to cut. The grain and the fibers in it are easy to cut through, but they may not leave a good finish on the outside, and others that are very hard, tougher to cut, but they polish out very well. I cannot reproduce any piece. They're all different. They all start from a different piece of wood. I can make maybe shapes that are the same, but I can't get the textures the same. I can't get the same voids and other things like that. So to me, art is important because it's unique. The message for people is just to enjoy it. To enjoy that it's another reuse for the tree, that also it's tactile. It's something that you can touch and feel. A common theme I find is people look at it and it fills a void somewhere either in their life or in their home. So a lot of people have looked at it and said, I've got a perfect spot for that. I learn something new every day. It's actually a big stress relief. So as you go through life, there's certain challenges here and there, and to be able to have something that you can go home to and thoroughly enjoy it is great.
You can learn more about Kolpacke, as well as all the artists that we feature on DetroitPerforms.org. Utilizing what's fallen from a tree isn't the only similarity our next artist, Jennifer Lanzilotti, shares with Kolpacke. She also discovered her inner artist just a few years ago. Let's take a look.
You're working on a canvas that is part of the earth. And then if I paint on this leaf, I'm giving a piece of earth back to somebody. So I actually don't have a background in art. It's really funny. My background is in social work. I gave up social work to be home with my kids, and that's when I started writing. So I wrote some action-adventure romance, and I kind of did it with the idea in mind that my kids would read it one day. They're kind of the movies that I had going through my head that I thought I need to get this on paper. The series is called Heal Me, and the first book is Heal Me, and the second book is Healed. And it's actually about a woman who has the ability to heal. And so at a time when terrorists have hit nuclear power plants, a government agent is sent to find her and bring her in, and he ends up learning that this person's not who the world thinks she is. For Chicory Island, there's an organism in the water, and it's the fear of if something happens to our drinking water, to the Great Lakes. And I'm obviously a big nature person. I love nature so much, and I'm all about like protecting the water and the Great Lakes. And I spent years writing as a stay-at-home mom, and I'd never painted before, ever in my life. And the opportunity to paint on leaves literally fell on my car. I parked my car under a maple tree, and it was in the fall. And when I came outside, my car was blanketed with maple leaves. So the opportunity was right there. So I picked one up, and I remember thinking, this is flawless. And I thought, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna just try painting. And I honestly didn't even have any good paint. I didn't have a good paintbrush. And I realized for the first time that I'm really drawn to landscapes. And it was a learning process for me. I can collect 100 leaves, and out of all those leaves, only 50 of them are gonna be worthy. So I bring them home, I soak them in the sink and water, and then I dry them with paper towel, and I press the leaves. I have a really good friend who made me this really great leaf press. I wait the 3 weeks, and then when they're completely dry and I'm happy with it, I'll take it outside and I'll spray it with like a protective spray, and then it's ready to be painted. I have always loved nature and the idea of bringing nature inside. It's almost nostalgic, a leaf, you know, fallen from the earth. And so you're collecting a leaf that has died and you're giving it life. It's being reborn in the form of a painting that will be forever preserved on someone's wall. And I love that idea. So once I released this inner artist that I obviously always had, but didn't know it until recently, I started viewing everything differently. And I'm obsessed with trees. I love birch trees. The initial is to look at something and that inspires me, but by the time I'm done with it, I have gone off in a totally different direction. I've added my own twist to it, and it's all just almost like beginner's luck. Every day I'm inspired, I want to paint or I want to write, I'm writing another story. It's like creativity overload. There's so much I want to do. I started doing bottles, you know. I ran out of leaves, and then I thought, well, let me paint on a bottle, make it one continuous scene around the bottle. My friend gave me the idea to turn them into incense bottles. It works. It makes a really nice incense bottle. It's also a bottle that you would have just thrown away, so the same concept, you're repurposing it, recycling a bottle. Palette wood is really popular right now, and I remembered thinking, like, I wonder if I could paint on canvas something that would look like palette wood. And so I took the canvas and I made a stencil and I painted it and worked on it all afternoon, and when it was done, it actually did look like painted palette wood. I think somewhere with being a mom and a parent, I dropped the idea of I can't. I used to maybe look at something, oh, I could never do that. But now I have this attitude of, hey, all I can do is try. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm gonna try it. And so I did, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. Out of all the things I've ever done, it took me like 30 some hours to do and tons of paint. I'm still in the beginning stage where if you really like my art enough to want to hang it in your house, I'm just thrilled to pieces. More than anything, I think I'm really grateful that I was able to be a stay-at-home mom, because that gave me the extra time. And this is a discovery for me. I don't ever want to quit painting. I want to keep going and pursuing it. I'm just so grateful that I have this. I would definitely like to keep selling, and I'd like to get my books published, and I would like to really get my name out there. I'd just be happy to have more than 100 followers on Instagram, to be honest.
Now let's check out some upcoming events happening in and around the D. Science and nature are areas that Aspen, Colorado artist Tania Dibbs explores in her work. Dibbs is especially interested in humanity's complicated relationship with nature. We visit her studio to see more about her creative process.
Every day it's awkward at the beginning, especially if you're starting with a white canvas. There's nobody saying, oh, you're doing the right thing now. You've just got to go, am I not? Is it good? Is it not good? Well, let's see how this goes. I'm not liking that. Why don't I like that? I'm not sure. And then finally the voices quiet down. But it's really satisfying when you're not wondering where you're going, you're just doing. And I use a mirror to kind of get an idea of what it looks like to somebody else because it's flipped it around and it's given me double the distance. It gives me a fresh view. I like it because when I look this way, it's very familiar. I'm already starting to categorize the shapes and I go like this, and it's completely new to me. I mean, I thought, well, why am I painting a landscape? Why don't I just use a photo? And I really honestly think that the act of putting all that work and care into it and then scribbling over it means something. It really does. It's almost analogous to how we treat our planet. How could it have sustained us and be such a beautiful thing and we treat it like this? I'm trying to shine a light on our soulless attitude towards our planet. When I started with landscapes, I was obsessed by the idea of the horizon, and I did these big skies, and I always felt like we are a speck of dust on the skin of creature Earth. I found comfort in the idea that we're just a cog in this biological process. Times have changed a lot. There's definitely more of a threat out there in terms of the environment. It's pretty critical now. It's worthy of addressing. I've never used fluorescent paint before on a painting because it just seems so wrong. But it also kind of goes because it's a landscape, and I want the viewer to still see the painting, but they're going to have to really look through all this stuff and wonder what it's about, and wonder why it's there. Trying to put it into words, what exactly it means, sort of makes it a lot more literal than what it is. I think in my mind it vaguely represents humanity, human construct, the things that we build, the things that we do that don't quite mesh. I'm trying to address something uncomfortable. Human beings have a relationship to nature, but we also have an anthropocentric existence, and I want to point that out. And if you just do something that's really didactic or finger-wagging or terribly ugly, nobody really wants to hear it or look at it. So I want my paintings to be beautiful, and I want the viewer to want to look more so that they stop and really understand what it's about. Why are there these fluorescent green lines obliterating this landscape? Why can't I see it clearly? That's a little bit uncomfortable. I'm trying to make them disarming enough that people will look and be drawn in by the beauty to go like, oh wait, wow, that's cool, that's so true. And people usually do really relate, because I think a lot of people kind of feel that in this day and age, like, wow, we're at a really interesting point in human development in terms of our relationship with the world, but nobody knows how to put their finger on it. And I think almost putting your finger on it in an abstract way like this is more direct than talking about it. I feel like I'm helping you express something that you know and feel and are aware of, but don't know how to express or talk about or bring into the conversation. It's really an interesting time in human history. I don't think people dreamed it would get like this. I tried to give a title that is a clue as to what the meaning of the painting is. So all of the first ones that I did in this series had the name Anthropocene. This is a geographical epoch that's been completely shaped by humans. Biology is not incompatible with art. Biology has informed my sculpture. The sculptures are all based in the look of invertebrate zoology. And I do a lot of work that addresses survival strategies in a changing physical world. You know, pieces with spikes, spores, a proboscis for feeding creatures that may be sort of horrifying but beautiful. I'm trying to ride that line. A little bit of that with a little bit of the miracle of what something can do to survive. It just goes on and on. I love that regenerative concept. There's a lot of power in that to me. I think it inspires me. I did study biology, so I always kind of think of us as a species, and it's hard for me to not do that. But things start to seem ridiculous. You know, I was a ski instructor, and I'm like, wow, I'm spending all this energy teaching a creature how to strap things on its legs and slide downhill for fun. I always think of things that way, and it starts to seem silly. Culture is very interesting, but underneath culture is nature. Underneath it all, we are human beings that are a part of the physical, biological world, and we separate ourselves from that, but we really can't. I mean, I think we pay the price for doing that. Biology led me down this path, and I think that for a long time I was happy doing the landscapes. but after a while they seem kind of pointless, so it's a pretty picture. What is it, a diorama from the past in a museum? Why am I painting this? It's not even what I feel. There's always a little bit of tension in me when I'm traveling and seeing beautiful things and worrying about what's happening. I think if you study biology or environmental science or anything like that, you end up with a real depth of understanding of the interconnectedness of things and the fragility of things. Art can put a certain conversation on the table in a way that other things can't. And so, do I think art, changes the world? Not one piece by itself, but I think as the conversation moves forward, the world slowly does change. So I think it's really important to bring up that conversation, and I think it's really important to continue the dialogue and get people comfortable talking about it, to have it be an issue. Because when something's not an issue, it's never going to be addressed.
And that wraps it up for this edition of Detroit Performs. As always, for more arts and culture, head to DetroitPerforms.org, where you'll find featured videos, blogs, and information on upcoming arts events. Also, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'd like to thank the Janice Charach Gallery for hosting us today. Now, the exhibitions here are always changing, so make sure you get down to the Jewish Community Center's campus to view the evolving works. Until next Tuesday, get out there and show the world how Detroit performs, y'all. I'm DJ Oliver. Thanks for watching, guys.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by the Fred A. and Barbara M. Erb Family Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, the A. Paul and Carol C. Schaap Foundation, the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs, the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.